I'm going to say that we are Nubians now, and he gave this long rationale. And then the brothers and sisters in the nation says that we are the Asiatic black man. And then the Pan-Africanist, like Meebe says, we are the African. And we still discussing what shall we call ourselves. In America, we are discussing, are we Afro-Americans still, or African-Americans, or are we Americans, or are we black Americans? And then we got all these logical things that we do. Now the crackers come up with a mixed race category. Gonna really create some confusion, but that don't bother me, because you know what? Everybody that takes the mixed race category saves me a lot of work from moving them out of the way in the first place. And we can deal with the folks who understand where they're coming from and work with them. But the fact that we are raising the question looms to tell us there's something positive going on, because we are holding the discussion. But it also says that there's some work that should be done that maybe wasn't done well, because the discussion is continuing for too long. All right? And it's important that we bring this to the conclusion. Now, what Doc said, and I just want to give you a little history on what happened. We decided that we were going to go and really put some claim on these forts and dungeons in Africa, because we wanted to cite them as Holocaust memorials. All right? Because we need ourselves to remember our pain. As we were listening to Sister Williams, feeling the pain, I was feeling the pain. You know, people ask me sometimes, they're like, Brother Small, like, why are you still there? You still at the 60s? That cool? Like, no, I'm not at the 60s. I'm at 1490. I'm at 1516. I'm at 1760. I want to feel and hear every scream, and I don't ever want to forget it. I want to know why I'm struggling. And I must understand the pains of those for whom I'm struggling. And I'm struggling for everyone that was marched across Africa from wherever they were marched, stored in those dungeons, put on those ships, killed in those plantations, killing the rebellions and the resistance movement that they went through. I want to feel their pain. That's my motivator. You cannot fight a struggle without being motivated with a motive. If you're told on one hand to forget those things, then what is your motivation for wanting to do anything? We hold the silliest discussion, but it's because of slavery. The discussion of how we are going to fit in America. I do not want to fit in America. America's not fit for me. America is not fit to fit in. You, even the most radical of us, would not expect the Jews to fit in with the Nazis. Yet these people, what they did to us is much greater by 1,000% than what the Nazis did to the Jews. But we have not explained it to ourselves in such a way that we see it and feel it that way. And the reason we haven't, because post-slavery trauma syndrome allowed us to allow the enemy to determine our leadership and then to determine the course of the dialogue for freedom. And that's important. They determine the course for the dialogue for freedom. Let me tell you what I mean. You remember when we were called Negro? And you remember we were struggling around the point of getting them to change the federal documents back in the 50s and the 60s. The Republic of New Africa was one of the leaders in this, one of the proponents of this, and saying we wanted to be African and then African-American. You know, we had to try to find a compromise point. Then Afro-Americans. And the cracker got real slick. Johnson jumped up there after Adam got on the bandwagon and a few other people and changed the documents almost overnight to black. But they changed something else that we didn't notice. And we didn't notice it because in this post-slavery trauma that tells one, you know, it's called, I think, is it the Helsinki syndrome, right? The Helsinki syndrome. Am I right on that? Okay. Where if you brutalize someone so much to get the pain to psychologically go away, they identify themselves as the brutalizer and as something else is being brutalized. You understand what that is now? Now, we see that happens to sisters a lot who are molested. And this is not the touch sensitivity, but it still goes on for the same reason it went on in slavery. Black men imitate white men. Black women imitate white women. They've been our role models. And we don't understand the degree to which they have been our role models. You can cite any critical deficiency in our community today that our men or women are doing, and you can find that same deficiency in the general white community that we are imitating. Okay? So what I want to deal with is like when we look at this whole piece of post-slavery trauma syndrome, we got to look at what effects this thing has had, especially on those of us who say we are the political vanguard, we're the political leaders, because this is critical. Now, when Johnson made the move and changed the thing from Negro to black, we had already got the Civil Rights Bill and affirmative action and all that stuff passed. And it was passed under the guise of Negro being the operative word for whom this compensation of a sort was to take place. It was to give some enfranchisement to someone who had been recognized as been disenfranchised. But the slick trick was when they changed Negro on some documents to black, they changed it to minority on other documents. Yeah, y'all missed it. Some of us was talking about it, but people said, oh, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. I said, no. They've switched the word. They've put minorities in some places and then black in other places. So what they did effectively is says, yes, you won a major battle in America. You forced us to our knees in America. You Panther Party, Republic of New Africa, Malcolm X, you Fannie Lou Hamer, all of you. You forced us to our knees. You've made us shame before the world. You've forced us to make concessions. But we're going to take one small word out of our language system, and we're going to use that word to make sure that you who have just set up the situation for your enfranchisement end up being disenfranchised, because now we're going to call it minority. Then we're going to classify all of these other people, white women, homosexuals, invalid, everybody else, people who did not have a grievance against the state because the state had not committed any particular crime against them, certainly not the crime for which we were struggling. And then we will pay the compensation to them and seek their alliance with us to make sure we could thwart your movement at its most critical moment. And it worked. One of the problems where post-slavery trauma syndrome came into this, because we desired, based on that Helsinki syndrome, to become the inflictor of the pain rather than that which the pain was inflicted upon, which is normal and natural. That we then chose to be in partnership with the very diabolical, inhuman thing, both creature, individual, and system that we had fought against. How could we want to be a part of the most exploiting, the most imperialist, the most colonialist, the greatest genociding political institution in the world when we were its primary victims? Now we have been so screwed up with the trauma of slavery that we say to them, boss, let me kill for you. Let me run your system of exploitation because I can do it better than you. I have a management style that you can't compete with. Just make me the CEO of the corporation that runs the bank, that's going to pay for the mercenaries, that's going to kill the brothers in Mozambique. And I'm down. No, that's where we ended up. And then on this side of that, those of us who picked up Jet and Ebony was proud to see us end up there because they were profiled as role models. And then we began to tell our children, be like this. And then the children start saying, y'all's crazy. So our children created a revolution of their own called hip-hop and rap, and has done more in the last 10 years to get black kids off of dope and to get black kids head together than we've done in the last 10 years.